Howdy folks, and welcome back to War Thunder with the mighty Jingles. Yes, once again it's time for our annual War Thunder video. I don't know what year that must mean it is by now, but it must be at least the early 2030s because I heard Star Citizen just went into closed beta. You know, at some point that joke's going to be as old as I am. Star Citizen still probably won't be out. Anyway, War Thunder. It's customary in these War Thunder videos for me to start talking at great length about the technology that went into whatever today's hero happens to be flying. In this case, it's P-51 Boss in the F-4 Phantom E. Unfortunately, I'm just not going to have time for that in this battle. It's not particularly long, and the action is just too thick, too fast, and too furious. I should contact my agent. I think I have the makings of a really good movie title there. Anyway, there has been a massive patch in War Thunder. The Raining Fire update with all kinds of improvements and additions to the game, far too many for me to go over in this video, but if you have a look at chat here, you'll note that everybody's complaining about the introduction of the AIM-7 Sparrow air-to-air missile and its notorious unreliability. And that caught me by surprise. Not because everybody's claiming that the Sparrow was an unreliable missile. I mean, it certainly had its issues. In particular, it would often lose target lock on targets that were at a lower altitude than you because the radar was confused by ground reflection. But having the opportunity to engage targets with missiles beyond visual range, beyond ranges at which you could engage them with a Sidewinder, was certainly a good thing. There goes P-51 Boss's first Sparrow. And it's going to miss. It's going to miss for a very, very good reason. And I don't think it's entirely P-51 Boss's fault. I don't really think it's anybody's fault other than Gaijin's, because there was no mention whatsoever in the Raining Fire patch notes about this missile. Because it's not a fire and forget missile. It's not like the Sidewinder. In fact, the P-51 Boss is about to demonstrate if you have a rear aspect shot on an enemy aircraft and they don't have flares, the Sidewinder, more often than not, will knock them out of the sky. And in fact, P-51 Boss is in exactly that situation himself, but he does have flares. He's dumping them in order to dissuade the enemy Phantom from getting a Sidewinder lock, and now he's in a very close dogfight. Both jockeying for position. He's going to pass in front of him. Let's rip with the cannon. Bit of a Hail Mary there, but hey, you never know. I'm not sure if he's got time here to get a Sidewinder lock. No, I don't think he does. He went for the cannons again. Didn't get him. It's an F4E, just like him. And there's an F4C closing in as well. This isn't good. Kicks in the afterburners, slips underneath him. The F4C was concentrating on dropping his bombs on the ground target there. Another Sidewinder away. Another perfect rear aspect shot. Another Sidewinder kill. Enemy Mirage up ahead, and he's definitely inside Sparrow engagement range, but the F4EJ is closer. He locks him up instead. Box 1, Sparrow away, and again, the Sparrow fails to get the kill. Thinks about locking up yet another incoming F4, thinks better of it, breaks to disengage, rolls, locks up yet another enemy F4 with the Sparrow. Fox 1. At this time, he does actually get the kill, but it's more through luck than judgment, and I'll explain why later. So what's going on here? Is it really this bad a missile? Well, it wasn't a great missile, as he kicks in the afterburners and goes supersonic, attempting to put some distance between himself and the multiple enemies on his tail. As mentioned, the Sparrow had issues, particularly if you were launching it against targets that were at a lower altitude than you because the radar could be confused by ground reflection. The Royal Air Force were the first to solve that problem. I forget exactly how, but they made multiple improvements to the Sparrow, called it the Sky Flash, and well, the improvements caught on with other NATO air forces. But I don't think what's happening here is down to any historically accurate unreliability of the missile. I think what's happening here is that the missile doesn't work in the same way as all other missiles in War Thunder, and there was no mention of it in the patch notes, which is pretty impressive. I mean, a major new weapon system introduced, and there's no mention of it in the patch notes. And so nobody knows how to use it properly. It's not a fire and forget missile. It's not like the Sidewinder, which has its own heat-seeking head in the nose cone of the missile. It's not like the AIM-120 AMRAAM, which has its own active radar seeker in the nose cone of the missile. The AIM-7 Sparrow is a semi-active radar homing missile. And what that means, as, yep, P-51 Boss is going to fail to kill yet another target with his AIM-7 Sparrows, is that you have to keep the target illuminated with your onboard radar. Because there's no active radar seeker head inside a Sparrow missile. It follows the signal generated by your radar. So if you don't keep the nose of your aircraft and the aircraft's radar pointed at the target after missile launch, the missile doesn't know where to go, and it will miss. Which means that the Sparrow is only really effective at beyond visual range, which shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody because it was advertised as a beyond visual range or BVR missile. Which is why every time you see somebody launching a Sparrow at dogfighting range and then immediately pulling a hard manoeuvre to avoid return fire, the Sparrow's not going to hit anything other than the ground when it eventually runs out of fuel. And I'm certainly not criticising P-51 Boss here. He has been playing an extremely good game. It's just that Gaijin introduced a major new weapon system that works completely differently from every other air-to-air missile in the game and didn't explain how it worked. In fact, they didn't even mention it in the patch notes. Here's how you're supposed to use a Sparrow. You lock the target. You launch a missile. You keep the target locked. The missile follows your radar beam and shoots down the target. That's how the Sparrow works. Oh, another enemy aircraft on his tail, just in case of heat seekers. He dumps a bunch of flares. You see, if you use the Sparrow properly, it actually shoots aircraft down. But nobody knows how to use the Sparrow properly, because Gaijin haven't bothered telling anybody. Trust me, I went through the patch notes. I looked. There's nothing there. I went through the change logs going back to the middle of August. There's nothing there. Fox 2, Sidewinder away. And there's another kill. See, the Sidewinders are fine. They're especially good if you've managed to get behind a target and it can't confuse them with flares. But the Sparrow doesn't work the same way. So everybody in War Thunder is complaining about how bad the Sparrow is. But they're doing it wrong. It's not a dogfighting missile. You have to keep the target illuminated. It's not a fire and forget missile. You have to keep the target illuminated. And of course, people are complaining that they can't kill anything with the AIM-7 Sparrow. Because they're doing it wrong. And it's Gaijin's fault because they just completely failed to say anything about it. Meanwhile, P-51 Boss is on 5 kills. He's the last aircraft left alive on his team, and that J7 down there is the last aircraft left alive on the enemy team. He's caught him on the runway. And P-51 Boss said that he does disapprove of strafing targets on the runway, but at this point he was on 5 kills, he was on bingo fuel, and there was no way he was going to lose this match. And so he didn't lose this match, and there's kill number 6. Kicks in the afterburners, because it would be really embarrassing to get shot down by anti-aircraft fire at this point after you've just won. And of course the good thing about jets with afterburners is that they don't have to loiter over hostile anti-aircraft guns as long as a piston-engined aircraft would have to under the same circumstances. So despite, and through no fault of his own, not really knowing how to properly use the AIM-7 Sparrow, that's a 6-kill victory for P-51 Boss in the F-4 Phantom. And impressive though that is, I don't think it's nearly as impressive as Raining Fire being the patch, where War Thunder introduced semi-active radar homing missiles into the game, and didn't think it was important enough to mention it in the patch notes. And on that bombshell, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.